Welcome to another edition of the Hot Seat with your host, Cam Perry. With me is Brandon Zazima. And sorry for the hiatus this past week, but we're here for another show. And I'll try to give you another show later on this week. And I'll go solo dolo with that. But the first topic we're going to talk about is yesterday there were reports that LaMarcus Aldridge was unhappy with the Spurs, and the Spurs are looking to trade him before the season ends. And this story was originally broke out from, I think, Jackie McMullen. So I want your take on. Do you think that this is BS, or do you think there's actual traction? Do you think the Spurs are actually going to trade LaMarcus Aldridge and look to pretty much just blow up the team?
I don't think they will, especially since uh, of their recent history around the last 15 or so years, they've been dominant when they have someone that's an all-star caliber in the post, whether being David, who was it before Tim Duncan? David
David
Robinson,
Robinson, yeah.
Tim Duncan, and now LaMarcus. And especially with Tim Duncan now retired and probably Tony Parker and at this Manu's last season. Um, at some point you're gonna have to start building a new core. And you have that. You're starting it with Kawhi, but you're gonna need another dominant pillar in there. No pun intended with the tall Marcus Aldridge. But I think it's a joke. I don't see it actually gaining any traction, really being anything. The Spurs are an organization that usually keeps everything quiet and to themselves, and I think it's just I think it's a hoax. I think he's probably going to be there for a while, and I see him. And he was starting to play well last year in the playoffs, and then a few games he didn't. But I could see him succeeding there and being there for years to come.
Yeah, most definitely. And the reason why I don't believe that the story is legit at all, because there really is no sources um, that is saying that this, there's anything that come of it. I don't know if you been reading any of the preseason reports from the Spurs or anything like that, but there hasn't been any inkling of that he's unhappy or that he wants to be out of there. I think this is a story just because they don't want. If you're not a media darling like like the Golden State Warriors or even the Cleveland Cavaliers with LeBron, they do not really post any articles about you. And since the Spurs is one of the contenders this year, they want any reason to propel Golden State to a higher level, because people are saying that Golden State is going to win the championship, no doubt. There's the only team that maybe can contend with them is the Cleveland Cavaliers. And every single year, the Spurs contend and improve people wrong, because people have been saying the Spurs have been done for years. And this is probably the Spurs' most talented group they've had. I mean, you got Kawhi Leonard, you got Pau Gasol, and you got LaMarcus Aldridge as your top three players for that team, with along with their role players they got. I mean, I've never been more excited for a Spurs team in a long time, just because we really have a bunch of young players with some solid veterans too, and even our old players aren't as old as they've been in the past. I mean, our two oldest players are Pau Gasol and Manu Ginobili, and I mean it's just incredible what nucleus they got, in the Spurs do things the right way. But if they do trade LaMarcus, I mean, who would they trade LaMarcus to, and what would they get in return that would be worth trading for him? Because I've heard reports that someone was saying that LaMarcus for Kevin Love. I said, we don't want Kevin Love. I mean, the Cavaliers don't even want Kevin Love. Why would we want a player that's worse than who we have? LaMarcus Aldridge is an all-star. Kevin Love, I mean, he really hasn't played at an all-star level since he's been with the Cleveland Cavaliers, in my opinion. But uh, I want your take on: do you think that that Kevin Love for LaMarcus Aldridge would be a good trade for both teams, or do you agree with me that it would be a terrible trade for the Spurs organization?
I think it would be a terrible trade on either side of it. The Spurs like to play inside out, where they dump it into the post and there's someone that's dominant in the post. I think Kevin Love did have that ability a few years ago, but that's not the style he's been playing now. And also the way the Cavaliers have set up their system, they have two guys that are attackers in Kyrie and LeBron that slash and go to the lane, and then they kick it out for threes. They've made pretty much Kevin Love as stand in the corner 3-point shooter. And I mean, it's hurt his game a little bit, but I mean, in turn, it helps Cleveland spread the floor. And even though LaMarcus can shoot like the mid-range jumper, he's not that great of a three-point shooter, so he wouldn't be, spreading the floor and helping them out so much. You'd just be creating a clog in the middle. And then if you sent Kevin Love over to San Antonio, I mean, they may try to put him in the post, but I don't know how much they would use him. You know, so I don't think it would work out for either team. So I think I see them both staying where they're at least for this season.
And a good segue to our next point, since we talked about Kevin Love maybe going to the Spurs, is the MVP voting this year. LeBron James is leading the MVP voting this year, which is no surprise to most people. Most people did not expect that anyone in the Golden State Warriors organization to be in the running for the MVP this year. Just the same reason why LeBron didn't win the MVP when he first went to the Miami Heat. And it's just because, people don't like teams that have all these stars and go to a team that doesn't really need them. Because people hate super teams. They really hate them. They don't like them around. It makes the league more watered down. And I did a story about this not too long earlier this summer about that super teams are bad for the NBA because this season you got Golden State Warriors, Cleveland Cavaliers, the San Antonio Spurs, maybe the Los Angeles Clippers, and then that's it. Like there's a huge drop off. Like all the teams at the bottom are way worse than the teams at the top. Like there's probably going to be four teams with 60 plus wins, and then a bunch of teams that don't even break the 20-win mark. And so I want your take on: do you think LeBron is deserving of being MVP this year? And if so, if not, who do you think deserves MVP this year, or who do you think will be the MVP this year?
I mean, you can look at any year over maybe the last decade, I guess, and there's a reason why LeBron's always finished in the top of the MVP voting, whether he finishes first or he's in the top three, top five, whatever it may be. And what he does on the court, I mean, he just changes organizations around. When he left Cleveland the first time after winning two, and went to Miami that first year he was gone. I mean, Cleveland became. I mean, those next 4 years, if you combine all the teams' records over that 4 year span, Cleveland had the worst record. And you could tell the impact that he had. He goes back, and then they're automatically in the finals the next 2 years. And then over these last 2 years, whether he's missed time because of a small injury or they're resting him, their record isn't great. They lose a lot of games when he's not out there. So you can tell his importance. But will he? I don't think so because just like last season, the Coach Lou is probably going to start to take away some of his minutes just for as a rest factor to get him ready for the playoffs. He'll always put up great numbers, but we've become so accustomed to his 25, his 27, 7, and 7. And this year he averaged like just over 25 a game. So people feel like he's taking this big drop. It's just the amount of minutes he's playing, and also he can put more of the scoring load and have Kyrie carry it and stuff like that. So I think he's worthy of the MVP. I think he'll finish high in the discussion. I don't think he'll win it though. And I think there's 3 players that have a really good chance at winning it. There's Kawhi Leonard, who I think is now his team. I know that he's been probably the best player on that team for maybe the last 2 years now, but with Tim Duncan out, like the big 3 era is now over. And I can see him finally taking the reins of the team and leading the team. I think he's going to continue to make strides in the right direction. Like last year, his 3-point percentage went way up from the prior years. Another guy that everybody that's been on everybody's radar is obviously Russell Westbrook. I think the Thunder are going to be better than we all think they will. But then again, I don't think they'll finish in the top 4. And it's hard to win the MVP if you don't have the wins to go along with your team. So, Westbrook will definitely be in discussion, but I don't know if he'll win it. And then the third one, which is kind of a dark horse, and they have a lot of new pieces on this team, but if they can kind of put those pieces together, he has a really strong case, and that's Paul George of the Indiana Pacers. I love Paul George's game. Just about a month ago or a few months ago, he came out and he said, he believes he's on LeBron's level and he's ready for him. And, LeBron will accept that challenge and try to go back at him. But Paul George has got a lot of skill. He came off a leg injury just a few years back. But he's continuing to get better. He's still a young player. And they have a lot of new pieces there. But if they can get back to the point where they were a few years back when LeBron was in Miami and they were competing uh, against him to get to the finals, I think that makes a really strong case for him because he puts up pretty good numbers too. So
Yeah, one person you probably didn't talk about that I think is going to probably sneak in and be in the MVP race and probably has a chance to win MVP this year, and he's on the same team as LeBron as Kyrie Irving. I think this is going to be the year that Kyrie takes over and becomes maybe not the best player on the team, but has the best year on that team. Because, like you said, LeBron has, he's won MVPs, he's won championships, he's been the man. And I think LeBron's going to defer to Kyrie this year so that he will be prepared and have all the energy required for another run at the NBA championship. Because, this year is pretty much for the Cavs, they're going to make it back to the NBA Finals. We all know this. Unless Kyrie or LeBron gets injured, I think even if Kyrie got injured, I think they still go back to the Finals. But I think if both of them stay healthy, there's no team in the East that will challenge the Cavs this year. And in the West, I think it's probably the same thing. I think Golden State, if they stay healthy, they'll probably go to the NBA championship. I think the Spurs got an outside shot, but we'll find out opening night, which is coming up in about 6 days, how good the Warriors are and have a chance to be, and how good the Spurs match up to them. That's why I can't wait for next week. Next week's gonna be a great week for basketball. I'm making sure I'm gonna get my NBA League Pass. So I can watch all the games, especially the Golden State games, even though I'm a Spurs fan, because I want to see how good our biggest competition looks and just how good this team will actually be. Because if anyone remembers, when the Miami Heat first got together, they didn't look like a team at all. I think they were like 9-8 to start the season the first year, and people were writing them off saying, "Oh no, this team is not going to win a championship. This is a mistake. This team won't be able to figure it out." And they eventually figured it out, which I think what's going to happen with this team. I don't think they're going to have that bad of a start because I think that there's not that many great teams going to be this year. But I think that they will have a similar struggle where they'll KD, Klay Thompson, and Steph will be arguing over who should be getting the ball at the end of the game. There'll be times and stretches where they'll be shooting the ball instead of passing it to an open man like a Klay, like a KD, like a Steph, like a Draymond. They got so many options. I think they'll be thinking too much instead of just making the right basketball play. But that's what I think is going to happen. But it's going to be a good year. And like I said, we're going to talk about this next week because I want to dedicate a whole show to the opening week, like for the NBA. Like next week is going to be a great week. I hope that everyone tunes in. And I think it's going to be probably the most surprising year we've had in a long time. People, I think there's going to be one team that's going to just break out and have a great year that no one expects. I think that team, like you said about Paul George, I think the Pacers are going to be the second best team in the East this upcoming season. That's what I think is going to happen. I could be wrong, but that's what I think is going to happen. So next thing we're going to talk about is we're going to talk about the Chicago Cubs. They were the best team in this year, but in my opinion, but they are struggling against the Dodgers. Do you think that the Cubs can come back from a 2-1 deficit and tie the series up tonight?
Well, they obviously can. They have the talent to. But this was the concern that people had with the Cubs. Over the last few seasons, they've got themselves back into the mix where they're actually competing. They're in the playoff race. They're actually trying to compete for a title. And the thing is, they've been playing well as of recently, but even last year when they made it to the playoffs, they were one of the favorites, and they just crumbled. And they have a chance to tie it tonight, but this is a key game. If they lose this one tonight, it's going to be huge for them. It's just like if they don't tie it tonight, it's just they're going to start crumbling again.
Do you believe in the curse of the Billy Goat?
It's hard to say. I'm going to say no because I don't like to believe in curses, but they do not have good luck. I can say that.
Yeah, I actually do believe in it. I think that I don't have no confidence in them at all. Like I think that the Cubs have a shot, but I think the Dodgers are going to win tonight. I don't know why I'm thinking that, but they looked absolutely pathetic last night, and I just don't know if they have the the fortitude, have the willpower to win tonight. But I do think if they win tonight, they're going to win the series. Though I think the winner of tonight's game is going to win the National League Championship Series and win the National League pennant. That's what I think is going to happen. But saying that, I hope that we get a Cubs Indians World Series because we didn't talk about this at the start of the show, but the Cleveland Indians are going to the World Series, and I think we that'd be probably the best storyline in baseball. We have two teams that haven't won a championship in over a half century, and the Cubs, it's been over 100 years. So I think that it'd be incredible if both those teams that have struggled and people have labeled as cursed franchises to face each other for a chance to win the World Series. And it's gonna be a great storyline regardless if both those teams make it to the World Series and one of them wins it because both franchises deserve an opportunity to win a championship and there's going to be a lot of tears being shed whoever wins it regardless. The Dodgers can win the championship next year. I mean, we want teams that have been struggling for years to win a championship. We don't want the teams that have had chances and won championships on championships. This is the year of the underdogs. We want those underdogs to win.
You
uh,
are you are right though. If the Cubs do advance, we're gonna have plenty of storylines to go around. And even if you're not a baseball fan, I think you're gonna want to be glued to this series because this is. I mean, you're gonna see history on either side if the Cubs do advance. And I mean, for whichever franchise, for whichever city, it's just gonna be huge. But wouldn't it be something if the Indians actually win? After no Cleveland sports team had won in over 52 years, I believe it was, and both their teams won in the same year. That would be a story. That
yeah,
would be.
yeah, most definitely. And speaking of curses, we're going to talk about the Dallas Cowboys right now. The Dallas Cowboys. I'm going to say this right now, and I'll say it again. I told a buddy of mine years ago that the Cowboys would never succeed in winning a championship with Tony Romo as their quarterback.
Oh,
And you see what's happening now. Tony Romo is not the quarterback, and look what magically happens. The Cowboys are incredible. They're 5-1. I believe right now. I believe they're 5-1.
yeah, they are 5-1.
Yeah. So they're 5-1 right now. Have the second best record in the NFC. They're probably, arguably the best team in the NFC. I mean, they're more or the Minnesota Vikings. They absolutely embarrassed Aaron Rodgers and the Green Bay Packers over this past weekend.
At Green Bay.
Yeah, at Green Bay.
Mm.
And but I just feel like, and I'm going to say this right now. Do you think that Jerry Jones is going to start Tony Romo when he comes back?
Yes, you will.
And do you think that the fans will be in an outrage? And do you think it'll mess up the team chemistry that they got? Because right now they're playing fun, they're playing free, they love playing together. I think that if Romo, I mean, if it comes back, I feel like it'll completely ruin the chemistry of the team, and they may regress and they may lose in the first round in the playoffs because or the second round when if they get the one of the top two seeds.
Well, I do think that Jerry Jones will start Tony Romo, and he's been on record saying that it is Romo's job, and even Dak himself has been saying, "I'm just holding the fort down, and if he comes back, I understand my place. I will be back up to him, and Tony will be back." I mean, it's going to be hard to throw a guy into the fold like that right in the middle of the season. As successful as they are, as the expectations start to rise for them, and I mean, the Cowboys go into every season with those expectations, but after a few games, we all know how the rest of the season usually turns out for them, as of recently. And I feel as if, Romo will be back there. It's going to be hard for him to get acclimated again. And the second he throws an interception or two, you're going to be hearing the crowd clamoring for Dak to be back out there. And,
And
you know, it's hard. It's hard because you don't want to put wins at risk if you have the opportunity to win, and your success and the way they've been flowing is great. But it still is Romo's team under a lot of people's eyes and management for the Cowboys. And we'll see. I mean, whether they start him or not, I mean, maybe he'll play a few games. Maybe he'll play well and he'll lead them back. But if he is to get hurt again and he is injury prone, at least this time we all know he does have a solid quarterback behind him that can actually not just be like a game manager as people would classify Alex Smith a few years back, but how well they're playing, leading a team. Like the Cowboys have said, they're not shortening the playbook for him. They're giving him the reins to the whole thing, and he's done well to this point. And we'll see, but I do expect them to start Romo when he comes back.
I think the problem with Jerry Jones potentially starting Romo again as the quarterback when he gets healthy is it could end up being the same situation that happened last season with the Broncos, and they could end up having a quarterback of the future, and he could leave to go to another team because he is not getting the playing time that he deserves. Because I don't know if you noticed, but he broke the record for having the most pass completions without an interception. He broke Brady's record, and he's only had one interception so far this season, and he had 3 touchdowns against the Green Bay Packers, and he outplayed Aaron Rodgers, who's a bad man.
Well, not so far this season.
Yeah, but he used to be
understood.
A bad man. But I think there's something going on with Aaron Rodgers that we just don't know about. I mean, in my personal opinion,
What's going on? I don't know. I don't know if it's the system. I don't know if he's lacking.
I think it's something happening off the field. I believe that. I honestly believe that. Because I've never seen a quarterback regress this much. That is an elite passer
Of his magnitude, where people would be saying, "Oh, without a doubt, he's the best quarterback in the league." People would say he's better than Brady, better than Breeze, better than whoever you want to put up.
I mean,
there.
he had 45 touchdowns a couple of years ago.
Oh, yeah, and I mean, this is a guy that's not like he's getting really old. He has a lot of talent left, and he has that ability. For whatever reason, they haven't played it to par, and I don't want to put. He does deserve some of the blame, but it can't be all the blame. It's a team sport, and something's obviously up.
I mean, and we're talking about someone backing up Romo and stuff. We're talking about that. This is another recipient of a quarterback that was a backup to an all-time great, a Hall of Famer in Brett Favre. So I mean, like I said, Romo could play start again, and Dak could be the backup again, and he could learn with Romo and stuff like that. But I feel like we live in an age where he's not gonna be patient, and he's a rookie quarterback. So I mean, he could just say, forget you, like, and go somewhere else, because he don't want to be riding the bench when he is producing the way he's producing, because there's no guarantee when he comes back and he plays again as a starting quarterback that he will be at the same level they have, because you never get the experience like you would in an actual game, because in-game reps is probably the most important thing that you can have as an NFL quarterback, especially.
Yeah, that's very true. We'll see, but Dak has played real well, and the system looks great. And real quick, I know it's not our main topic on the show, but can we, for a second, talk about how great Ezekiel Elliott has been?
Yeah,
we can talk about 2 weeks. What is it? It's been 4 straight weeks. He's had over 150 yards, 130, something in that range at least.
He has over 700 yards for the year, I'm pretty sure.
That is insane.
And he has the most rushing yards for any running back in the NFL right now as a rookie.
That's saying something. I think after those first 2 weeks or so, when we were, is he going to be what he is?
He's the truth.
Boy, has he turned up. And I think he is now leading the case for Rookie of the Year.
Definitely. He has a chance to break the record, the rookie rushing record too.
It also doesn't hurt that he's running behind that great offensive line in Dallas, because they do have one of the best offensive lines.
Yeah, I think he's running away with the Rookie of the Year a trophy. So far, like I don't think there's anyone even close. Like I said Sterling Shepard had his chance, but he's dropped off the last 3 weeks. But another player that actually is
that receiver over there in New York.
Yeah, Odell Beckham. He had his best game of his career this past weekend, and he actually got the Giants.
Right, because it helped me in fantasy football this week.
Oh yeah, like I was pissed off in the first quarter because the Giants were absolutely terrible. And then I watched the game. Like, I watched the full game. I was like, and even in the second quarter until like the last 3 minutes of the game, like we looked absolutely awful. And then the second half we were incredible. I felt like I was watching 2 different teams in the first and then the second half because the Ravens couldn't score in the red zone to save their lives either. Like they had plenty of chances to make this a blowout game, and they couldn't take advantage. And the Giants made them pay, especially when Jimmy Smith went out. That's when everything changed for the Giants. When the Ravens' best corner got hurt, the Giants were able to just
They
throw it
attacked
all over them.
that area.
But we're going to talk about another two teams in those college football. We're going to talk about two teams that got a great defense. We're going to talk about A&M and Bama this weekend. This is probably going to be the best SEC match we have this year. The two best teams in the SEC. Do you think that A&M can dethrone Bama and have a chance to be in the playoff this year?
Yes and yes. Uh, I do believe they have a chance to beat Bama. Their best chances if then their best chance for the playoffs is if they beat Bama this week. Doesn't matter how big the victory is. If you beat Bama, you're usually leading the first story on Sports Center, and it's kind of hard to do. But I believe this team has that ability too. They are 6-0, I believe they are.
Yep, and they got the best receiving core in the league the country. I mean,
it's going to be a scoring affair for sure, I believe. And I mean, we'll have to see. I don't want to say I choose Texas A&M, but I choose Texas A&M this week.
no, I'll choose them. I can't believe I'm even saying. And I'm a Texas fan, and I'm saying this, but I reason why I want A&M to win this game purely off the fact that ESPN is on Bama's nuts every single week, every single year, and the SEC is garbage this year, garbage. Like Tennessee, garbage. They should have like 4 losses this year. They lost two games in a row, but they should have lost 4 games with how bad they've looked. They almost lost to Middle Tennessee State. No, Appalachian State. I knew it was some type of state. Appalachian State.
Yeah.
And they had no business being in the top 10 at all. And then you got Ole Miss. Like, they're a complete mess. Like, they're a good team, but they just –
But they're a mess.
Yeah, they're so Jekyll and Hyde for me. And then after that, you got – who else you got? LSU, garbage. Mississippi State, garbage. I'm not even going to talk about Kentucky. We're not going to talk about Florida's all right. But outside of that, who else in this season is good? That conference is terrible this year. Big 12 is terrible too this year. And you got the Pac-12 terrible this year outside of Washington. Washington is the truth, and they're probably going to make the playoff this year. I mean, I think Washington actually will be in one of those top 4 spots. I think what we're going to have is the winner of the Bama and A&M game is going to be one of the teams in the SEC. Then we're going to have the winner of the Ohio State-Michigan game, which that could be a big boy game. We potentially could have a 1 versus 2 matchup again this year with Ohio State-Michigan, which Michigan has the best defense in the country, and I believe they're only allowing like 7 points a game, I think.
Around there.
Which is crazy. And then you got whoever is the ACC winner, which is either going to be Clemson or Louisville, is going to be the 3 spot, and then you got Washington for the 4 spot. Who's going to be probably the Pac-12 winner, because I don't think that any other team is anywhere close to as good as they are. And they've really impressed me. So I just think that it's pretty much all set in stone what teams are going to be in the playoffs. Like there really is only 6 teams that have a legitimate chance now, because with Houston losing a couple weeks ago to I believe it was Navy. But we're going to get to some real nitty-gritty football coming up. And Lamar Jackson, again, is far and away the leader of the Heisman Trophy campaign. And the only defense he plays left is Houston, which he should win that game. And I think that will cement him winning the Heisman this year, because people are talking about J.D. Barrett. If he had a big game against Michigan, that he'll win. He has a chance to win it. But I think Lamar Jackson will be so far ahead of everybody else when they do play each other. Before he'll be so far ahead of everybody else. By the time the Ohio State-Michigan game happens, that it won't even be a discussion, because he'll have video game numbers. Like his numbers are ridiculous. Like he's probably going to have like something like 50 passing touchdowns and like 35 rushing touchdowns, some crazy number like that.
Numbers. Video game numbers.
Yeah, you only can play that when only stuff like that happens when you play Madden and stuff. That's the only time you ever see that. But it's just I've loved this college football season. I mean, my team is garbage, but it's just good. It's just good to see great players and great teams duke it out. And I just want a team other than Bama to win this year. That's all I want. Because I'm tired of seeing Bama on my screen every single week.
Agreed.
But the last thing we're going to talk about, and this is going to be the last topic since we're on the college football topics. We're going to talk about Charlie Strong. Do you think that Charlie Strong will keep his job? And also, do you think that Texas has already started looking at Tom Herman as their next head coach?
Well, again, when it comes to college football, I mean, it's a hard topic for me because it's just hard for me. I know they had higher expectations, and I believe they're what 3-3 now.
3-3, and Tom Herman is the Houston coach. He has Texas ties. He's a real. He just seemed like a Texas guy.
That's all true, and that's just the issue I have with the college football is because the format. I know they just recently added in recent years they added the playoff format, which is better. They're growing. They're going in towards the right direction, but it's just as if you're 3-3, and now we're already talking about Texas doesn't have a chance at anything monumental, and it's just they're going to be kicking Charlie Strong out the door and bringing in looking at other head coaching candidates, and it's just I mean if we were doing this in the NFL, I mean. Yeah, we'd have high expectations for certain teams and maybe we'd be disappointed. But give it 3 or 4 straight weeks and you go on a winning streak and it's okay, they're back in the discussion. They're back in talks of maybe competing in their division. All you got to do is win your division. You have a chance to get in. Even if you don't win your division, you still have a chance to make the wild card when it comes to the NFL. And I know they're two different, leagues, two different levels. But that's just the issue I have that with college football because it's like you're so ready to kick a guy out the door that's has a good track record, but it's just when it comes to once, like in recent memory, when it's not as good as what it was projected to be and what they would hope to be, then you hear the mumbling and the whispers, and you're ready to get kicked, ready to kick somebody out the door. So it's difficult, but if they continue the trends that they've been doing, then it's likely that you'll probably see Charlie Strong out the door by this season's end, or maybe even before that if it's that bad.
Yeah, I don't think they're going to fire him before the season ends, but I think the biggest difference between the NFL and college is that NFL, most of the teams, the talent level is pretty even. And when college, I mean, the teams are not even with talent. Like there's teams in the same conferences that don't have no talent, and there's teams like Kansas, for instance, and there's teams with a lot of talent like Texas and Oklahoma. Oklahoma and Texas will always beat a team like Kansas. While in NFL, any team can beat any other team on any given night. Like there's, for instance, even teams like the Cleveland Browns can sometimes beat teams like the New England Patriots. Like it can happen sometimes. Yeah, I mean,
the Browns, I don't know, but no,
there's been some times where teams like that have been terrible.
No, you're absolutely right. I mean, I know I'm a Patriots fan, but I'll bring this up. I mean, last season we were favored against Philadelphia, and Philadelphia came into our house and were beating us handily for a while. I mean, there was a lot of mistakes New England were making, and New England's not a team that makes mistakes, but it just seems like when they do, the floodgates open for the other team, and that's when they start to feast on it. But yes, you are right. I guess any team in the NFL could be.
A better example on this. Look at the Carolina Panthers. They're 1-5 this year, and they were at the Super Bowl last year.
Well, they have a whole lot of issues, and like as we spoke earlier in the season, I mean, I know it's just not one player, but I do feel like the loss of a Josh Norman does play a huge role because they lost their swagger on defense. They would go into a game, Norman, Kuechly, those boys were just. They're ready to hunt, and it just seems like now it's just like, and Cam, I mean, as much as I love him, Cam Newton's go back to his old ways, when he's trying, he's become more professional about it, but when he's losing, like anybody, he's not in a good mood, but, he's acting a little more childish antics. He's not, answering all the media's questions. I think, what was it, last week? He was, after his post-game interview, he was there for 90 seconds and he left.
Yeah, this past weekend. Yeah, he's a
lose that. It's going to happen, and I mean we saw this before. They were so successful last year when they were losing all those years, and he's acting almost as if a prima donna, like why? Woe is me. How come this happening to us? And when they're winning, they got that swagger to them, and they don't got that swagger anymore. And I think a big part of that is because Josh Norman's on that defense. The defense would lead would create the momentum for everybody else to fill in. And I know it's just one player and it's more of a team sport rather than basketball where one player can make a whole difference. But I do think not even just his skill level, but I think Josh Norman's swagger to the defense of the Carolina Panthers, that loss has created a domino effect to where they're at now.
I do feel like Cam Newton's a front runner. I feel like he's when they win, he's happy. When they lose, he's pouting. He doesn't want to answer questions, and he's not being a true professional of the game. Like most of the greats, whether they win or they lose, they're going to take it like a man, and they're going to just take the punches and then just keep pushing. He's the type of guy where he gets hit and he just runs away instead of just taking it head on. I mean, Cam Newton's like one of those guys where as a kid, the bully maybe picked on like that little kid, like Cam Newton's little kid in this case, and he gets beaten and punched in the mouth, and he runs home instead of taking that beating like a man. That's what Cam Newton has been acting as of late. And the Panthers are 1-5. And real quick before we go, do you think that the Panthers can come back and make the playoffs like the Kansas City Chiefs did last year?
No, not at this point. I mean, they do have enough talent on that roster too. Will they? No, because I mean, I just don't see. I don't see the spot where they would fit into at this point. I don't think they're coming back in the division at this point, unless something happens with Atlanta and Atlanta falls off because Atlanta's been
Balling, yeah.
balling. Julio Jones is racking up.
Even though they got screwed this past week, though.
Yeah, yeah, you're right. It does happen, but I don't see Carolina at this point, and it's mainly because of just their body language. I don't see a turnaround at any point.
All right. Okay.
I don't see the change.
Okay, so before we go, this was a great show. I'm glad. Hopefully, everyone that tuned in loved the show. I know we were gone for a couple of weeks, but we're back. But before we go, Brandon, tell people where they can find you on your social media if they want to look for you.
Okay, well, you guys can find me on Instagram at BZEZ, the decimal point, and then the number 2. You can find me on Facebook at Brandon Zezima, BrandonZezima. And you can also find me and Cam at Real Sport. We're writers over there and aspiring journalists, analysts, whatever the case may be, and we're on the come up. So try to check out our work over there too.
Yeah, and for me, you can find me at Cam Perry 2021 on my Twitter. You can also follow me on my Facebook page at Cam Perry Sports. And you can also find me on my Instagram at CPScott1. And you can hit me up on any of those social media sites, and I will gladly return any messages that you send me or any replies you send me. And you can also email me at the cam18@gmail.com and send any question you have for us on the show, because in a few weeks, especially when basketball season starts, I want to start doing giveaways where I can send you tickets to a particular game that you are trying to see if you're in a particular area where they got an NBA team. So yeah, check out for that, and we'll see you next week. And bye.